Movie Slinger here. So hopefully you've already watched Avengers Infinity War. If you haven't, then don't watch this video just yet. Go watch the movie and then come right back because I'm gonna spoil a lot here. If you're still undecided, go watch my Infinity War review and I'll put the video link in the description and hopefully that'll make you want to watch the movie. Anyway, from this point on, I'm gonna assume you've watched the movie. So spoiler warning again. I'm not gonna cover everything in the film, just some of the most memorable moments and a few personal fan theories regarding what might happen in the next film. Let's get started. So the first thing I want to talk about is Thanos, Gamora, and their search for the Soul Stone. I love the way Thanos and Gamora's father-daughter relationship is handled in this film. We see them face off against each other for the first time when the Guardians go to stop Thanos from taking the Reality Stone from the Collector. Gamora rushes in for the kill and manages to stab Thanos with a knife, the very same knife he gave her when he adopted her. Thanos goes, "Daughter, why?" And then she breaks down and starts to cry. And then we realize, hang on, she actually loves him. Of course, Thanos' death here is an illusion created by the Reality Stone. Thanos has already recovered it and we see the Collector's hometown in ruins as the illusion is lifted. And then the real Thanos shows up. And we have this really emotionally charged moment when Star-Lord pulls a gun on him and Thanos is holding Gamora in front of him. And Thanos is like, "Ah, the boyfriend." Then Gamora asks Peter to shoot her as he promised and you can see it tearing him apart. Chris Pratt is really good in this film. He's good in comedy but he can also deliver on these dramatic moments. Zoe Saldana is really good too. After Thanos, these two are pretty much the only ones with character development in this film. They held off admitting how they really felt about each other in the earlier films, and in this final moment when they both think it's over for them, they finally say it. That was a nice conclusion to their arc and reminded me of the Han and Leia scene in Empire Strikes Back. Then Peter finally pulls the trigger but Thanos turns the bullets into bubbles. I'm guessing that's the Reality Stone at work. Then he says he likes Peter and teleports with Gamora. I guess Peter earned his respect or something. That's quite a compliment coming from the girlfriend's dad, I guess. I really like this scene because it forced characters to make hard choices and also made it very personal for Star-Lord and Thanos by introducing a conflict between them. And this sets up another high tension scene towards the end of the film which wouldn't work without this initial confrontation. Now speaking of hard choices, there's one for Thanos as well. He kidnapped Gamora because she's the only one who knows where the Soul Stone is hidden. They travel to this planet and find this cloaked figure that speaks with a German accent. The second I heard the voice, I was like, hey, is that Red Skull? And it was! Hugo Weaving returns as the classic villain. He's sort of like the keeper of the Soul Stone. I don't know what he's really doing there, but it was cool seeing him again. So he tells Thanos that the Soul Stone requires a sacrifice, a soul for a soul. Thanos must sacrifice the person he loves the most to get the Soul Stone. And Gamora starts laughing. She's thinking, he doesn't love anyone, he'll never get the stone. Then Thanos turns around and you can see he's crying. And then Gamora is like, tears? Really? And then Red Skull is like, the tears are not for him. And then Gamora realizes that Thanos actually loves her. And then Thanos sacrifices her and gets the Soul Stone. Now, interesting thing I noticed, before he sacrifices Gamora, he says that he turned away from destiny once before, but he won't do it again, not even for Gamora. Now, what does that mean? Does that mean he gave up his quest in the past? Maybe he lost the will to do it? Was it because of someone else he loved? Well, we don't really find out, but this piece of dialogue adds more nuance to his character. This scene really sets Thanos apart from the more mediocre villains in the MCU and puts him in the same league as the best villains like Loki. He's a complex character with emotions and he does care about people. I did not expect to see Thanos cry in this film and it was a really good performance by Josh Brolin too. The next thing I want to talk about is the battle to get the glove off, which is pretty much what the gauntlet is. So Tony Stark, Doctor Strange and Peter Parker meet up with Star-Lord, Drax and Mantis on Thanos' ruined home planet of Titan. After a brief little fight, they realize they are on the same team and plan to set up a trap for Thanos, who's on the way to take the Time Stone from Doctor Strange. This planning scene is comedy gold. Tony makes a plan but Drax is not listening. When Peter Parker points to Drax and Mantis and asks what is it that they do, and Mantis replies, kick names and take ass. And then Quill says Tony's plan sucks, and there's even a Footloose reference. Quill asks, is it still the greatest film on earth? And Peter Parker says, It never was. The look on Quill's face is priceless. Then Thanos shows up and we get this spectacular action sequence. The Russo brothers have always done really cool action in the earlier films like Winter Soldier and Civil War, but they used a bit of shaky cam and fast editing which made the action a little hard to follow at times. But here they use a more steady cam approach, probably because they were using IMAX cameras to shoot Infinity War. And I love what they've done here. The shots are grand, showing off the immense scale of some of the alien locations and landscapes. Titan looks really good in the wide shots. The slower editing makes the action very easy to follow, which is a good thing with so many characters jumping around. So many cool things happen in this scene. Spidey is shooting webs at Thanos, Iron Man drops a spaceship on him, Doctor Strange conjures 100 versions of himself to hold Thanos down, Star-Lord throws his magnetic grenade to keep Thanos locked, even Nebula shows up crashing a ship on Thanos. Everybody is desperately trying to hold the guy down. Then a portal opens up above Thanos and Mantis jumps on top of him and puts him to sleep. And then Iron Man is trying to get the Infinity Gauntlet off. Remember that conflict that was set up between Peter Quill and Thanos? That helps build tension in this climactic scene to get the gauntlet off. Mantis feels Thanos' emotions and she's like, he's sad, he's in mourning. And then Quill gets worried and he's like, where's Gamora? And Nebula realizes what Thanos had done and says, he did it. He sacrificed Gamora for the Soul Stone. And then Quill loses it. He's like, tell me you didn't do it. And Thanos is like, I had to. And Quill starts punching Thanos. They almost have the Infinity Gauntlet removed. It's almost coming off, but Thanos wakes up and gains control. Now, I've seen a lot of people complain about this. They say, Star-Lord's an idiot. Why didn't he wait for them to remove the gauntlet before punching him? He ruined everything. Now, I don't care what people say, okay? I love this scene. And the reason is that Peter Quill is human. He's already lost his mother and father. Gamora was the only person left that he truly loved. He wasn't ready to let her go. And at this point, she mattered more than the fate of the universe. Also, he did sacrifice her as he promised earlier. This scene works because the characters and the conflict was set up really well. Quill had to make the very difficult and really messed up decision to kill Gamora and fail only to have Thanos kill her anyway. It's like he lost her twice. Very few people in that position would be thinking rationally, okay? So please get off Star-Lord's back, people, okay? The next thing I want to talk about is Thanos doesn't kill people. Well, not all the time anyway. After the Avengers and Guardians fail to remove the gauntlet, Thanos breaks free and starts kicking all kinds of ass. He breaks apart a moon and throws pieces of it at our heroes. Let me say that again. He breaks apart a moon. How cool is that? At the end of the fight, it's just Thanos and Tony going at it. Tony gives everything he's got, his rocket thrusters or whatever, to punch Thanos. And Thanos just shrugs it off and says, all that for a drop of blood? And wipes a tiny bit of blood off his cheek. All these heroes fighting him, and that's all they manage to do. He then breaks Tony's suit and Tony tries to stab him with a blade. And Thanos breaks off the blade and stabs Tony. I was like, oh my god, he's gonna kill Tony. This is it. But then Doctor Strange convinces Thanos to spare Tony in exchange for the Time Stone. And Thanos is like, I respect you, Stark. When I'm done, half of humanity will exist. I hope they remember you. I like that about a villain. For him to respect even his enemy? Thanos is not a crazy villain. He is the good guy from his point of view. The only person who has the will to do what it takes. His goal is to wipe out half of all people in the universe. His reason is that resources are finite. People will eventually kill each other out of hunger for more. So if you reduce the population by half randomly so that it's fair for rich and poor, the remaining people will be able to live a good life peacefully. You can really understand where he's coming from. His logic makes sense, and if you look at all the people he kills in the movie and all the people he spares, you can see that he only kills when it's absolutely necessary. He kills Loki probably because Loki is too unpredictable to leave alive. He kills Vision to get the Mind Stone. He kills Gamora to get the Soul Stone. And I feel like he would have killed Hulk because Hulk could be dangerous, but then Heimdall quickly teleports the Hulk away, probably sensing this might happen, and the Hulk is too important to lose. And that's really it. He doesn't kill Drax, Mantis, Star-Lord, Spider-Man, Doctor Strange, and he honors the deal with Doctor Strange to let Tony Stark live. Later on in Wakanda, he's fighting Bucky, Groot, Falcon, War Machine, Black Widow, Scarlet Witch, and he doesn't kill any of them. He just blasts them out of his way. And one of the most epic moments in a superhero movie ever, Captain America, the last man standing, resisting Thanos. For a second you can see on Thanos' face a look of surprise, his reaction to Steve Rogers' determination. I think Thanos respects him too now. After he knocks out Steve, it's just Wanda resisting Thanos. Then she makes the difficult choice to destroy the Mind Stone, which effectively kills the man she loves, Vision. Thanos, seeing what she did, her sacrifice, seems to feel her pain. He is not a murderer. He only kills when necessary, and even then doesn't seem to enjoy it. Next, I want to talk about the battle in Wakanda. It's essentially a race against time to remove the Mind Stone from Vision before Thanos' goons get to him. So you get Black Panther and the Wakandan army, Steve Rogers, Bucky, War Machine, Falcon, Black Widow, and Bruce Banner in the Hulkbuster suit resisting Thanos' army. Bruce is in the Hulkbuster because the Hulk has performance issues. He's too scared to come out, probably because Thanos beat the crap out of him in the beginning of the film. Now that was a great way to immediately establish just how powerful Thanos is. Have him beat up the Hulk so bad that the Hulk is too scared. It's interesting that Hulk is only present for about 30 seconds in this film. Thanos' army is made up of these alien creatures, thousands of them. They're like the aliens in the Riddick movies. Now they're swarming towards the city. Then Black Panther gives the signal to attack. And it's like Return of the King, man, where the armies are rushing towards each other. And then right at the front, Steve Rogers and Black Panther way ahead of the pack, running really fast to get to the action. It's one of those moments where you can't help but cheer. As the battle rages on, we realize that the Avengers are getting overwhelmed. Then Thor shows up with Groot and Rocket and turns the tide of the battle. Thor introducing Groot to Steve Rogers was hilarious. He doesn't remember Groot's name, so he's like, "This is my friend, the tree." Groot is like, "I am Groot." And Steve Rogers, ever the nice guy, is like, "I am Steve Rogers." Now that got the entire audience laughing. That was also the part where Bucky picks up Rocket and swings him around while they're both shooting at aliens. And then Rocket asking how much for Bucky's metal arm. That was really funny too. The next thing I want to talk about are the character interactions. The character interactions in this film are hilariously entertaining because the characters that team up complement each other very well. The filmmakers have chosen characters that have the best on-screen chemistry and the most potential for laughs and puts them together to solve problems. Tony Stark and Doctor Strange are a really good example. Both of them are snarky, self-obsessed, and know-it-alls, so it's really fun to watch them bicker. Star-Lord and Thor, although they meet briefly, are really funny too. Thor starts hitting on Gamora. Quill gets really jealous and tries to act all tough like Thor. Now there's a lot more of these, so please do leave your favorite character interaction moment in the comments if I forget to mention it. Another fun team up is when Thor goes off on an adventure with Rocket and Groot to find a new weapon, something powerful enough to defeat Thanos. Now this adventure is really cool, not just because it's funny to put Thor with Rocket and Groot, it definitely is. Thor keeps calling Rocket Sweet Rabbit, but it also builds character relationships. There's a nice scene where Thor is talking to Rocket and he's talking about his entire family being dead. He's trying to look okay and smile and joke about stuff, but you can see that he's actually tearing up. Chris Hemsworth is a damn good actor to pull off something as subtle as that. Speaking of dead family members, Loki's death is still probably fresh on his mind. It's sad because the death happens just after the brothers finally accept each other for who they are. Just before his death, Loki introduces himself to Thanos as the Prince of Asgard, Odin's son, and rightful king of Jotunheim. Not king of Asgard as he always wanted. I think that Loki has finally accepted Thor as the king of Asgard and himself as the king of Jotunheim, just like Odin always wanted from them. After years of fighting, at the end of Thor Ragnarok, the two come to an understanding. It's the end of their arc. These two are one of my favorite on-screen brothers, and it's sad to know they won't be teaming up again. The next thing I want to talk about is Thor's new weapon. Now, they travel to this place where Thor's hammer was forged. Back in the earlier films, when he said that his hammer was forged in the heart of a dying star, that always sounded like something cool to say, but it seemed too fantastical. I never could imagine what that was. Well, here we find out that The Forge is actually a space station which can harness solar radiation coming off a neutron star. I've always loved how Marvel combined the fantasy with sci-fi, and it's really cool how they explain this. The people who work at the Forge are dwarves. Like, of course they are. And the last one alive, called Eitri, is actually Tyrion Lannister himself. That's right, Peter Dinklage shows up. I remember someone in the audience went, "Oh shit," when they saw him. So we find out that Eitri forged the Infinity Gauntlet for Thanos to channel the power of the stones. Later, Thanos killed all the dwarves and left Eitri alive, but not before breaking his hands. I like how this adventure is related to the main plot of Thanos. It's not an unrelated bonus side mission. So Eitri helps Thor forge a new weapon called Stormbreaker. This thing is super cool. It's an axe which can activate the Bifrost, which means Thor can now teleport. How they forge the axe is really cool too. They activate the neutron star to start the forge, but they can't find the handle for the axe. So Groot picks up the blade and wraps his tree branch hand around it. He then breaks off his own hand to complete the axe. The film has so many of these moments, you know, when a character does something so selfless like that. It's so emotionally satisfying when it happens. Stormbreaker is so powerful that later on when Thor and Thanos fight, the axe is able to cut through an energy blast from the Infinity Gauntlet. I feel like Thor at the end of the film is powerful enough to kill Thanos. Next, I want to talk about who survives, who doesn't, and what it means for the sequel. These characters have been with us for so long, some of them for almost 10 years. When a character died, it was heartbreaking. This was especially true for Loki, one of my favorite characters in the MCU, and also Heimdall. I knew going in that nobody was going to be safe in this film. I wasn't worried about the new characters like Black Panther, Spider-Man, or Doctor Strange, because I know they'll return for the sequels. But I was at the edge of my seat when Tony Stark fought Thanos, or when Steve Rogers held him off, or Thor and Hulk fought Thanos and got beaten up very early on. The stakes were high in this film, and I was emotionally invested in these characters. And you really gotta give it to the filmmakers. They have effectively used these characters that other filmmakers have created and developed over the years to deliver some of the most entertaining and nail-bitingly tense moments in the history of the MCU. The filmmakers also cleverly subverted my expectations of who was going to die. Tony, Cap, Thor, Hulk, Black Widow don't die. It's actually the newer characters I didn't expect, like Spider-Man, Black Panther, Falcon, and Doctor Strange, along with most of the Guardians, and Bucky that disappear when Thanos snaps his fingers at the end. So looking at who's left alive, I have a few theories on what we can expect in the next film. So we know that Doctor Strange looked into the future, and out of millions of possible futures, there's one where they win. I assume that's why he bargains with Thanos to leave Tony Stark alive and surrenders the Time Stone. Tony Stark needs to be alive for the Avengers to win. There's no point fighting Thanos, he's too strong and he'll collect all the stones anyway. So Thanos gets all the stones, snaps his fingers, and everyone disappears. But where do they go? There's a small hint of where that might be. See, Thanos sacrifices Gamora's soul to obtain the Soul Stone, and after snapping his fingers, he sees her as a child on this alien planet. She asks him, "What did it cost?" And he replies, "Everything." Intriguingly, the building she's in looks identical to the one where Thanos first meets her, her home planet where Thanos saves her and then offers the knife. Thanos still remembers her as a child, the day they met. This leads me to believe that this conversation is actually taking place inside the Soul Stone. Gamora's soul is held captive inside the stone, and Thanos can maybe teleport inside to visit her, which means maybe the people that disappear are also trapped inside it. Another interesting point, the heroes that survive are the original lineup of the Avengers, along with War Machine, Rocket, and Nebula. And I have a strange feeling that Hawkeye and Ant-Man will be alive and join them in the next film. My theory is that Ant-Man will play a major role to save the people trapped inside the stone. Maybe he can shrink to the quantum realm and go inside the Soul Stone. I think this theory will turn out to be true since the new trailer for Ant-Man and Wasp looks like the quantum realm is going to be the main focus. Who knows? It's just a theory and I could be completely wrong. Although I have a feeling that the original Avengers will need to make some sacrifices to save the new team. From a thematic perspective, it's an interesting character arc for the team as a whole. Avengers 1, the team is formed. Avengers 2, the old team trains the new kids. Civil War, the band breaks up. Avengers 3, the new team members disappear. Avengers 4, the team finally come together one last time to save the new guys and passes the torch to them. Also, I'm glad that both Tony and Cap are still alive because their character arc is incomplete. It would have been such a wasted opportunity if one or both died without resolving their issues and becoming friends again. It would be very satisfying to watch them team up again. Also, I have a feeling that there may still be survivors of Asgard. Thor says Thanos killed half his people, so maybe Heimdall teleported people away when Thanos attacked the ship. We don't see this in the film, but we do see Heimdall injured but holding his Bifrost sword. That's pretty much the first thing we see in the film, so I'm guessing Valkyrie and Korg may still be alive. I hope so, especially Korg, but nobody really cares about Valkyrie. While Infinity War does leave a few things hanging, it ends on a very strong note. The movie has a lot of fun but knows when to dial back the humor. Especially at the end when people are disappearing, nobody's joking around. The movie ends on a very somber tone, a little dark and depressing but appropriate for the moment. They don't even play any music at the end leading into the credits. And this has been a very long video, so thanks for staying till the end if you're still with me. But let me conclude by saying that Infinity War is one of my all-time favorite superhero films. The next film is coming out in 1 year. Now that's gonna be a very difficult wait, but that's okay because we can still watch Infinity War a couple more times while we wait, and then Ant-Man and Wasp, which is just around the corner. So what did you guys think? Is there a favorite moment of yours that I missed here? There's a lot more I didn't talk about, but then we'll be here for hours. So if there's a fan theory or favorite moment you want to talk about, leave it in the comment section below. And don't forget to like and subscribe. Thanks for watching everyone.